wanted to do a segment on what makes a good replica great. You know, mine, when I was out looking for it, I didn't have all the nuances of, comparing a real one to some of the things that are different or what's not quite right with the replica market. Now there's some that are way off, short wheelbase, things like that, that are kind of a different thing we're looking at. We're looking at the ones that are pretty good and what could take them over the top to be really good or great. So those are some things I didn't quite figure out when I bought this one, but we'll go through, use this one as a starting point, maybe show you some pictures of other ones that are better or what the target should have been. So let's start with the first thing. To clarify things, we're trying to start with ones that have, close to the scale of the real deal. So if you look at this car, the proportions are pretty close. We'll go into some more detail on that. But one of the big changes or one of the big things the industry did was use short wheelbase Fieros. And I think they're 94-inch wheelbase. And the real deal is 98.5 wheelbase, which I've actually measured this one. It actually is 98.5. I think I'm right at 98.5. So starting with that, now you know if you can head right with the scale of things. So one of the first things that really always caught my eye is a lot of replicas don't use the correct wheels. So if you got the scale right, and then the next big obvious thing is the wheels. So if you look at the wheels on this, they're actually the real deals because Luke, who built the car, was working with Lamborghini in the body shop, so you could get the real deal. So we know mine have the right scale and the right size, right offset, all that stuff. But a lot of guys, when they're building their cars, those are expensive wheels. I think Luke's paid $8,000 just for those rims, and most guys end up going with those American racing style rims that are kind of close within this kind of realm, but they certainly change the look of the car, and it makes it obviously that to most people that it's a replica just because of those wheels. Now there are replica wheels available. There's fiberglass inserts that go into I forget this, it's a wheel maker. There's also some, I think they're called teledial styles, and there's Image Wheels makes some replica wheels that are pretty close, and then there's some other guys out there that are really making knockoff wheels so that they look true to the real deal. So a lot of kit cars, one of the big issues they had too was from the front look, and I'll show you here in a second. Going up the front, the A-pillar had a wide pillar to it. And it really kills the look. Now I think there's a number of reasons. They needed the structure in there. There's not a lot of room to put any structure behind there when you go with the narrow pillar. The other thing is what's available for windshields. This is an OEM windshield in it because Luke was able to get one. Now it's a tight fit putting it in there. There's not much room for that A-pillar, and the structure you have to put in behind it has to be quite small and compact. And so depending on what kit cars and what windshield they designed the car around, that's what really drove the size of that pillar. So by utilizing the original, you get a much closer look to the real deal. And back in the day, these were really expensive, obviously, and hard to get. And you can see that there's a little contour to it, but not a lot. So that's another piece that makes a good kit car great. That was on the prototype, but not on any other cars. If you're wondering what it is, it's when the door comes up, that notch needs to be there to clear from hitting down here when it rotates down. So in the prototype they had the same thing. What we found out, and Luke and myself later, is if you angle these hinges in an offset kind of a way, it's a weird angle, so the door kind of comes up towards us, it'll actually clear that. You don't have to do that.
something we know now.
I never realized this until after I bought one. A lot of guys have talked about it, you know, with the, what do they call it, Series 1, Series 2 of the Countach, you know, I think they call it low body, high body. The difference being in the height between the bottom of the car and the NACA deck. It's slightly higher on the high bodies, giving a little more interior room. Now, I don't even know if mine's right or wrong or whatever. I just like it. Alright, you've heard me talk about this before. It's a door glass. The door glass on mine is flat. It's actually going flat across here. The door glass on the reel has a slight contour. You can actually see it in this car. I'll show you the angle here. So if you look, the actual door has the curve that's in the original. And there's actually a gap here of about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch here from the, you know, the edge of the door to the framework for the window. So this should have a curve in it, and it doesn't. So this is one thing that mine's missing that could take it to that great level if we had that in there. And these are available. You can actually get the full insert that goes in there with the curved glass and the window mechanism that goes in it. So it's available to get now. Put it in. I need to do that. The quarter window on the back here has a big sweeping curve to it. A lot of the kit cars go with a flat piece that they put in there because it is tough to get that glass, but it's available now too. So there's no reason not to put it in. And what happens if you go with a flat glass, it screws up all the fin work here in the back in order to get that proper pattern for the intake. There's this tire size. It's important to try and keep, you know, those, now I've got OEMs, so keeping the right diameter of the 15-inch rim, which is amazing, it's just 15 inches, it's pretty small. But the scale to the car is important, right? So there is 17-inch wheels available, but now your tire is going to be about half as much. It's going to throw off the scale of the car. The car's not as big as you think. It's pretty wide, but it's not as long, you know, wide as it's, you know, if I think that's one of the things that I saw when I was 16, and I was amazed at how small it was, lengthwise, but widthwise, whew, it's like almost a square. But anyways, the wheels and the size and the width are important because that girth of the back, so having the 325s in the back gives it that full scale of the girth of things. So, and then the way it tucks up under there. So the other thing I try to do is, okay, I think I'm sitting not bad right now. Yeah, probably good, right? But, you know, depending on where you got this sitting, you know, I have mine, I tend to go a little bit higher because when I'm out at the shows, I can go into grass and stuff like that, park in grass places, and need a little more clearance. I think I got 4.5 under the front lip. So sometimes I do that by lowering the back, maybe a half an inch, and it will tip up at the front, sort of thing. I remember seeing one fly by one day when I was working, and he was accelerating off of light, and he hit some bumps as he was accelerating, and I was amazed how much the car compressed and how far up that wheel went into the wheel well as he was accelerating off. It was really squatted low on the rear end, you know, plus you got all the engine and everything back there, so it was something to keep in mind. The other things that make a good car great, intakes. So the intakes are used on mine, and on this side we have the intake for the engine. We're drawing air in. There's a K&N filter on the other side of this, so you can't quite see. On the other side is the filler, just like on the real deal, where I had my mess last week. And also these intakes go right into a rad. You can see the rad when you look in, and you can see it at the back end. Yeah, it's sitting right about here, I guess you'd say. And the fans are on the back side of it, drawing the air in. So you get, you know, the full look, and as those fans are running, if you were to come to the back, you feel the air coming out through the back here through these vents. The roof deck lid, there's a couple different styles. I actually believe the 88 had the two side kind of hump vents on either side. This has got the Bosch fuel injection style, which in 88, I guess it could have been a possibility. Yeah, somebody will correct me on that. But anyways, you're limited to what the kit's available to offer, and then you have wing on, wing off. The other thing is, I love this more stubbier. I think there's two wings that Lambo used. I like the shorter struts and the laid back look a little. They have a little more, I think it was the anniversary model had a little more upright wing and a little taller. And I just got lucky with that one being on the car. Now when you look at the back of my car, there's a couple of big giveaways on mine that you're not going to be able to change it. And that's a transmission sticking out the back. There's not much you can do to that. Now they had a cover that goes over the back of that. And I might actually do that. With my son being a welder fabricator, I could easily make something up custom to fit around my transmission and kind of disguise the whole thing a little bit. And that would help make this car great. So I might do that down the road. The other thing to pay attention to is those exhaust tips, the ANSA tips. Now, I don't think mine are ANSAs, and I don't think they're the proper ones on there, but they're damn close. And I like them, so they're staying. But those are some of the things that when you're looking at the back of the car, it does the finish of it up really well. Now, not to overlook some of the little details on the cars. Things like the mirrors, the indicator lights, windshield wiper, the front fog light glass that's lined, the rear tail lights in that package, depending on what ones you're using. This is replicating the 88, 90 on the back of mine, but they should have that full package in there. And the scale and the orientation, there's no reason now for any of those bits and pieces not to be right, because we know what they are now. We know what these parts are and how to get them. So it's easy enough now when we're building these cars to actually put in the correct parts. A lot of them are, I think they're Gulf GTI lights in the back of the cars. To sum it up, all the parts you can get. So there's no reason to get something else to supplement it in, unless you're zeroing in on your build light. We're talking about the cars that are going from good to great. So these are the things that can change it, because the guy that's really interested in the car is going to know all these things, as he approaches the car, and you want to make it as close as you can. A lot of guys, when they approach my car, they're coming from the front. From the front, everything looks pretty good on this. It's not until you get to the doors and the window glass, or the back, where you got the transmission coming out, that are the giveaways for this being a replica. And then, of course, you go in the interior, but we'll do that in another episode.